Hello and welcome to a Morning Brew on Politics Social. I am Graham Hughes and it is Friday the 1st of November 2024. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you would like to join our socialites in the chat here on the side of the screen, all you need to do is hit the subscribe button, bing, like this. I don't think your subscribe button is quite so big, but never mind. And wait for a minute, and then you can join the chat with everybody else. Hello to Sarah Davis and Billy Kershaw and Stephanie. Regan Elite is in there. We've got Simon M. We've got Unquiet Badger. We've got David Faulkner. We've got Philip Jones, Pygmalion, Jeff True, and we've got Christopher Bowles. Hello, hello, hello. I was going to talk a little bit about the budget this morning. However, I decided it's best talking about that on the agenda at 1 o'clock with Uncle Phil. So please join us for that if you want to hear more of our take on the budget. Phil was talking about it yesterday, but also the reaction to the budget, which I feel is really interesting because all of the usual pundits like Alistair Heath, who writes for the Tory Graph, is going, this is the worst budget ever. Oh, it's going to put us in decline. Oh, the world is ending. And this is the same guy who was positively jizzing in his pants at the last, the mini budget that Kwesi Kwarteng read out in the House of Commons, to the absolute horror of the markets, insurance, mortgage holders, just anyone really paying rent. You know, anyone who's not a Nepo baby, anyone who's not, you know, plopped out their mum into obscene amounts of money and can never fail, you know, like Trump. Too big to fail. Too fat to fail. He's a horrible man. And we're having serious issues at the moment in the United States with his rhetoric. It's ramping up as we get closer to the election on Tuesday. The thing is, over 60 million people, more than the population of Britain, has now voted in this election. That's a lot. That is a lot. So it's going to be like half are going to end up voting early by the looks of things. Half of the actual electorate, the people who bother to vote. It's a fascinating and terrifying world that we are inhabiting at the moment, where, you know, two people can see the same picture of Trump in a high-vis vest looking like a Trump-a-lumper and think, yeah, one person thinks, oh my God, what a freak. How could anyone possibly vote for that person? And the other person thinks, this is my shiny, golden, orange God. You know, how could anyone not vote for this guy? Look at him. Just look at him with his tiny hands and his orange face. And you're just like, how? It is weird because we talk about this a lot on the channel, you know, about things being different for different people. Your experience is going to be different depending on who you are, what you've done in your life, what's happened to you, the people you've met, the family you grew up with. Things are different for everyone, and it gives people different perspectives. And I understand that. And, you know, I understand to a certain extent people who vote right-wing, because they're selfish, greedy bastards who just want to keep all their ill-gotten gains to themselves. They want to push the ladder away for anyone else who wants to follow them. If they come from a working-class background, if they come from an upper-class background, they just don't want anybody else having the finer things in life like they have. Because, you see, you've got to understand how rich people think. They see like, oh, well, I can fly on a plane and no one else can fly on the plane. That's amazing if it's the 1940s. And then suddenly, you know, in the 60s, mass, you know, the ability to go on sort of package holidays and for the everyman to get on a plane came along. And that really upset the rich. They were like, oh my God, we need to do something about this. The plebs are getting on our planes, on the same planes as us. So you had two things, you know, the rise in private planes and also Concorde for the rich, which was paid for a lot from British money. You know, British taxpayers' money. It was massively subsidised. I mean, it was an engineering marvel, don't get me wrong, but still, a plaything for rich people that the poor paid for. That's what Concorde was. And that is what HS2 is. And essentially, that is what Trump is. He is a rich person who poor people pay for. So I can understand people being right-wing. I can understand people feeling affection towards a politician that they think is on the same level as them. But the obsession, the absolute wide-eyed, swivel-eyed obsession with Trump is just terrifying. I was going to say bizarre. It's terrifying. And it's a misfiring of the love gene, or the love chemical reaction in your head, where you fall in love with someone so you can settle down, procreate, or just have really good sex if you're not planning to procreate, or you can't. And that's, that drives the human race forward. But when it misfires and people fall in love with daft shit, like, I don't know, Star Wars, Brexit, Donald Trump, it's terrifying. It's a terrifying prospect. I've got, what isn't a terrifying prospect is Commander DJ Bep, who is absolutely awesome. Thank you, Commander, for dropping a £5 super chat in the first super chat of the month. White Rabbits, happy new month, everyone. Grab a coffee, G, and never forget Farage supports the criminally convicted sex offender Trump. Yes, he does. There was a wonderful billboard put up in Clacton, Farage's constituency, yesterday, led by Donkey's peeps, which shows that he's made over £200,000 since being elected for Clacton, same thing. Being elected in Clacton, he's made over £200,000 from other things, because he has to declare it now. Now that he's an MP, he has to declare what he gets, his money coming in. Anyway, so yeah, the idea that people can look at Trump, it's disgusting, tiny-handed, racist, bigoted. He's a fascist. I mean, he just is. I mean, the stuff. How do you know he's a fascist, Graham? Well, just listen to what he says. But also, I mean, don't forget, this guy's an adjudicated rapist. You wouldn't leave him in charge of your family if you went out for the night, to the theatre. Oh, Donnie, would you mind looking after the children? No, you wouldn't let him anywhere near your kids, would you? Would you? But then, I don't know. Because there were rumours that people knew what Michael Jackson was like. And, he had a fondness for, having kids come over, giving them what he called Jesus juice, which was wine, and then sleeping naked in the same bed as them. He admitted all this. Like, this isn't controversial. This isn't tittle-tattle. And the parents knew this, but they thought, oh, well, he might improve the prospects of my job as like a script writer or something. So here you go, have my child do what you will. And people are like that with Trump. And they were like that with Johnson in this country as well, to a terrifying degree. And Corbyn. I'm sorry, I'm going to upset some people in the chat now by mentioning this, but the cult of Corbyn at its height was truly terrifying. It was people who would get so animated and emotional, really, really emotional over this guy who at the time wasn't helping me, wasn't helping my cause, wasn't helping the people that I was trying to get together to organise to fight against Brexit. In fact, he was hindering us doing that. And yet the people on the other side, not only did they not see any flaws in him at all, like he was perfect. He was the perfect man. Graham, why can't you be more like this perfect man without any flaws? It was the fact that they put him on this pedestal, and if you made even the most mildest criticism of the guy, they'll go nuts. So I gave up. Just between you and me and everyone watching this, I gave up. I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to go in. I'm just going to go in hard. I'm just going to say F this guy. He's a scumbag. I'm going to go in harder than I possibly should have, because that was reasonable. But I felt like they were being unreasonable with their sort of Google-eyed adoration of this bloke who was just a bloke who at the time wasn't just presiding over the biggest sort of racism crisis in the Labour Party's history, but also he was presiding over a Labour Party that was, in effect, supporting the Tories' flagship policy of making the poorest people in this country even poorer. Supporting the Tories' flagship policy of taking rights away from workers. That's what he was supporting. And I was just standing there at the side going, what is happening here? This is bizarre. And I had to take a step back and go, they're falling in love. They're in love with him. They're in love with Brexit. They're in love with him. They're in love with Trump. People fall in love with the daftest freaking things. When you get obsessed with something and you can't stop thinking about it, that's love. That is love. I mean, some have argued that addiction is a misfiring of the love gene. Do you know what I mean? Like you think about cigarettes, you think about, I don't know, your weed or your heroin or whatever, alcohol or whatever you need to get through the day, in the same way that when you are in love, you need to see that person, you need to text them, you need to call them. You hang up first. No, you. Do you know the level of obsession? It comes naturally in humans because it's part of the love reflex. Should we call it the love reflex? That sound a bit wrong? I don't know. Stay with me on this hypothesis, because, the thing about love is it defies all logic. And I often said at the time when we were fighting against Brexit unsuccessfully, trying to get someone who loves Brexit to see things from your point of view and to give up, their affection for this thing, and don't forget, love, it comes on really strong, and it like I say, it fills up your whole brain. Like, you can't think of anything else except this thing. And it was Brexit for a lot of people, Trump for other people, Corbyn for other people. And like, I'd say it would be a bit like sitting your mate down in the pub, right, and saying, your partner's a wrong'un. How can you do that? They're totally in love. They think this person is the be-all and end-all. Have you ever had to do this? Have you ever had to say to a friend or a family member that their partner, the person that they're in love with, is wrong for them, or a psychopath, or problematic in some way? It's bloody difficult. And the reaction, 99 times out of 100, it will be defensiveness, and then vitriol and anger towards the person telling them the truth about their partner or whoever it is. How dare you, as you're talking about the person I love? I think we've all been there. We've all been there. And a lot of people watching this, and myself included, we've been in love, and maybe are in love. And we know what it's like. But what can we do? And this is my question to you this morning. Like, what can we do when someone looks at that picture that I put on the thumbnail of the Trumpa-Lumpa with his silly little hands and his stupid, gormless, foundation orange face, bright orange face, and go, that's the guy for me. That's the guy I want to march off the cliff behind, or in front of, I guess, in Trump's case. That's the guy I want to drink the Kool-Aid for. I'll do anything for you. Look at me, Damien. It's all for you. It's all for you. Damien Thorne, Donald Trump. David Faulkner, thank you very much for the 38 Hong Kong dollars. That is very kind of you. Love is a decision, not just an emotion. It is selfless and a commitment, says David. Is it a decision? Is it? Oh, God, we can. I thank you for the super chat, but is it? Because sometimes people fall in love with people they shouldn't fall in love with. And they get obsessed with them. And then they get arrested for stalking. And you can't say as a defense, well, I was in love with them. Love is pure and beautiful and kind. It's like, not always, because the line between love and obsession is wafer thin. Wafer thin mint. You'll explode any second. Are you describing Jackson or Gandhi? Well, they both did that, actually. Yeah, Mohandas Gandhi wasn't flawless either. I've never seen a pedestal. Says Plumduff. Graham, his HS2 is for rich. Why wasn't it built already, and why has Sunak cancelled it? Because it spiraled out of control. They thought it was going to cost like 13 billion, and it ended up costing like 113 billion, and they just couldn't keep couldn't keep the con going. There's a point where the casino has to close down, or the gangsters turn up and start knocking things off the mantelpiece. The HS2 was we could do a whole episode on it, and we talked about it before on this channel. HS2 could have been great. It could have been a really good idea, but it should have been called high capacity. It should have been built to a lower spec to allow trains to run at 125 miles an hour. That's fine. Look, we live in a small country. Yeah, the fact that it takes 2 hours and 7 minutes on good. If you've got a good head of steam from London to Liverpool, that's fine. That's fine. That is absolutely fine. we don't need to go faster than that. And if we did, it would be a matter of half an hour faster. It's just not worth it. So speed shouldn't have been the emphasis. It should have been capacity. And I've said this a million times on this channel. What we needed to do is take the passenger lines, the East Coast and West Coast passenger lines. We needed to basically alleviate the amount of traffic on the West Coast and East Coast main lines by having sister lines, running parallel if necessary, that were exclusively just for passengers, just for passengers going into city, not regional trains going at 30 miles an hour on the same tracks as trains doing 125 miles an hour. That's ridiculous. And then it's not freight trains going slowly across the country on the same lines as the fast trains going between the cities. It makes the whole network so unnecessarily complex and complicated and messes up all of your timetables if you have trains going at different speeds on the same line. The reason why the tube can send trains every 3 minutes down the line is because they're all doing the same speed, they're all going on the same line, they're all the same type of train, they're all taking passengers. So if you scale that up to a high-speed rail line, I mean, it couldn't be every 3 minutes, but you could conceivably have 6 trains an hour going on that line easily, if they're all doing the same speed. But what difference does it make? I mean, if there's a problem, then the trains behind can, they'll have enough notice to stop, put it that way. Anyway, moving on. Brexit, bloody Brexit, says Christopher Bowles. Say what you like, but where was the opposition to Department of Work and Pension reforms, NHS outsourcing, education reforms, etc.? Corbyn was a reaction to that failure. Yeah, but Corbyn was making it worse. Like, Corbyn wanted to promote and help the Tories' flagship policy of making the NHS outsourcing worse, of making poor people poorer, of giving people less rights, of giving people, the end game for the Tories is to pull us out of the European Convention of Human Rights, so they don't have to pay us any money at all. So they can get rid of minimum wage, so they can get rid of any kind of benefits and just let the poor starve on the streets as a threat to anyone who dares to stop working or dares to stop being a drone in the machine, a cog in the machine. All those things could have been sorted out if we hadn't spent so much time dicking around with Brexit, but we did because there was no official opposition to it. We had the Lib Dems who had about 10 MPs. You had the Scottish National Party who were a bit more obsessed with Scotland becoming independent and saw it as an opportunity to do that. And then you had the accelerationists. Again, new word, just learnt it. I'm going to use it as much as possible, as I do when I find a new word. Yeah. But the accelerationists who thought the worse we make it for people, the quicker things will get better. Something that's never happened in the history of humanity. Anyway, law of diminishing returns, indeed. What loving a cuppa and a biscuit. Oh, I could do with a cuppa right now. I didn't have time. I was late getting started this morning. I'm still at my mum's in Liverpool, and I had a few things to do before I got started. And then as I was setting up, I knocked one of my lights over. So I didn't have time to make myself a cup of tea. So I got a glass of water instead. But after this, I am going for a cup of tea. Let's see what everyone else is saying. Good morning, everyone, says me mum. Hi, mum. How you doing upstairs? Katie Walker. SHS2, 200 miles an hour would have been a good target. Increasing their target to 225 makes things dramatically more expensive to build. Katie, yeah, look, like I said, I'd been happy with 125 miles an hour. Like, honestly, it's fast enough. It's fast enough. I'd just like to get those passenger trains that are going really fast off the East Coast and West Coast main line and leave them for regional trains, slower trains, the freight trains, whatever. And then give me the choice, okay? So if we're going to say that HS2 is a rich person's plaything, which it doesn't necessarily have to be, but the price of trains right now is absolutely eye-watering. When I went to London for my American visa a couple of weeks ago, it was £180 return to London for me. £180 to get to London, a 3-hour train journey. That is absolutely bonkers. And I've said this before as well. Like, I'm happy to bump along a jungle track in Guinea for 2 days. Sitting on the handbrake with a bit of a towel over the handbrake going into my bum, and that wasn't too nice. And slowly grinding our way through the jungle because it only cost me $1. And you sort of go, okay, well, it costs $1, so who cares? So if we have an alternative, if you really need to get to London in 2 hours, okay, well, you can take the fast passenger train on high capacity 2 or whatever we call it. I'm going to take the slow train, which goes at 30 miles an hour and takes 5 hours to get there. But it only costs $1. Not that we use dollars in this country, but you get the metaphor. Basically, I'm quite happy to have shitty service if it means I don't have to pay much, right? If I have shitty service, like I have to stand up the whole way, I can't even get a reserved seat on a train that I've paid £180 return to be on. That's beyond the pale as far as I'm concerned. I'm not paying for discomfort. I'm not paying to be on a train that is just horrible. If I was given the opportunity to take a train for pennies, I would not care what state it was in. I would sit on the roof if I had to. I wouldn't give a shit, because it would be a way of getting me from A to B, and it wouldn't cost me much. Anyway, high-speed trains mean straight tracks. Exactly, Sean, which makes big problems. So just slow them down, and you can have curves, and you can go round difficulties instead of straight through them. Katie says, I live near Stafford. Problem is not so much the cost, it's the inconsistency. Full price is stupid and well into 3 figures. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating, the way that the trains are run in this country. But, you know, they're being nationalised by Labour, which they said they would do. Something that Corbyn said he would do in his manifesto in 2017 and again in 2019. And Labour have actually got in now. They haven't been beaten into the dust, like the worst defeat since 1935. In fact, they've just had the best victory ever. And people go, oh yeah, it's only a shallow victory. I don't care. Like, do you know what? They got 400 MPs. Brilliant. Bring it on. We're sick of the Tories. We're sick of the way they think. And it's not just the 400 Labour MPs. It's the Lib Dems. It's the SNP. It's the Plaid Cymru. It's the Greens. Wonderful. There's now over 500 progressive MPs in Parliament, and I'm hoping that this is going to show in what happens. And you saw this in the budget, and I know some people are trying to paint it as like austerity 2.0, but it's really not. There's an extra 40 billion of funding that's been earmarked, government funding earmarked for the NHS and education and fixing the bloody potholes in the road and all the things that the Tories let go to rack and ruin because they didn't give a shit. They can pay for private clinics. They can pay for private education. I guess they drive on their own roads. No, they don't. That's a lie. They go in their own private jet and or helicopter and helicopter. So you couldn't do that at the same time. Yeah. Private jet or helicopter to get around the country. For reference, see Rishi Sunak. Vision Thing, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. Great to see Rimrose Valley Road got canned in the budget. Happy days. You know how much that means to the community in South Sefton. Oh, I didn't pick that up. Oh wow, that's really good news. Yeah, for the Rimrose Valley Road. So for those who don't know, essentially there's a ring road, a ring motorway. There's an arc. There's a little bit of a ring motorway going around Liverpool called the M57, and it gets to the M62, and because motorways were very fashionable in the 1990s, it then goes into the Knowsley Expressway, which is a 70-mile-an-hour dual carriageway, but it's not a motorway. And then if you go the other way, instead of going towards Runcorn, you go to North Liverpool, essentially. You sort of come around, and then you hit this place called Switch Island, which sounds like something from Super Mario Brothers, but it's not. It's a real place called Switch Island, where the M57 smashes into the M58 with the resultant consequences. Oh, and 3 other dual carriageways. And the resultant consequences are an absolute hellscape of a junction. There was supposed to be a flyover and a roundabout, but they never got built. Anyway, the M57 essentially just ends there. It just gets cut off, right? What it was supposed to do, it was supposed to continue on, and then if you can imagine Liverpool's like an L shape, and then you've got the motorway going like this. It sort of ends here. It was supposed to go all the way to the water, right? So it's supposed to arc round to the river. However, it would mean going through the Rimrose Valley, which is the beautiful bit of Liverpool. North Liverpool. I guess it's Sefton. It's Sefton, isn't it? Beautiful bit of Sefton, north of Liverpool, and where people go and they walk and take their dogs and have picnics and stuff. It's a lovely, lovely place. I used to live fairly close to there, so I know it. They were going to build a big ass motorway through it, and the people who live in that area were, justifiably upset about it. However, and I will say this, we need to have a real think about how we treat our roads in the terms of where where large vehicles can drive. Just the doorbell just went. I hope someone else can get that. Because what happens is all the trucks going to the docks, the North Docks, they'll get to this massive, junction at the end of the M57 or the M58 if they're coming from the north, and basically they have to go along suburban streets in order to get to the freaking docks, which means that the street to the the road to the docks is always awful. It's full of potholes, it's full of traffic, it's a bit of a nightmare. So they really need to think about, and there's people living just like a few inches back from the actual road, in the houses, like the London North Circular. That makes it all a bit difficult. Anyway, so back onto what you guys were on about. We desperately need media reform. Too many sheeple in the UK led by media, and that's why we get Tory governments and Brexit. Labour need to get some balls, says Philip. I mean, they've shown their teeth a little bit with the budget. Not as much as some of us would have liked, obviously, but still better than nothing. Anyway, just to go back onto trucks for a moment, I think they should be banned off the roads at certain times, and I think that they shouldn't be allowed to go down certain roads in suburbia, or city centres. Just get off the roads, because the amount of damage they do to the road, it goes up just a ridiculous amount as a response, if you like, to the weight of the vehicle. It's logarithmic. It doesn't go up. It's not like it's twice as heavy. It makes twice as much damage to the road. No, it's twice as heavy. It makes 4 times as much damage, and it's 8 times, it's 16 times. So yeah, it's pretty bad. Oompa Loompa Sex Doll says, time traveller indeed. Someone said it was Musk's sex doll. Katie Walker there. Look at the proposals for the M6 expansion 15 years ago. Toll road right next to the M6 with limited junctions. So useless for most affected by it, and close enough so building would screw up the M6. Yeah. Then again, I mean, it saves you from having to sort of travel through Spaghetti Junction and stuff, doesn't it? Yeah. I don't know. The proposals for the M6 expansion from 15 years ago. Well, I didn't see the proposals, sorry. I did see that I've been on the M6 toll road. Obviously, that's been about 20 years now. Bloody hell. Which is nice because there's hardly any lorries on it. If we get more lorries onto the railways, that would really help matters, bringing things full circle. Anyway, listen, it's 10 o'clock, so I'm going to have to wrap up in a minute, but I realised I haven't done the papers with you. So here we are with the papers. We've got the Daily Mirror there, trapped in a nightmare. This is about Valencia in Spain. As Spain counts death toll as well, braces for more climate change disaster. We all know this is happening, and the politicians want to do sod all about it, except talk about carbon capture schemes and bullshit hydrogen stuff. Go home. Soaring cost of sickness claims. Half of welfare benefit payouts soon to be for poor health. Weekly wage will have risen just £13 in 20 years after tax grab. This is like the Times Murdoch rag trying to make the budget sound worse than it was for working people. It's not really that bad. They're trying to make out like it's really bad for what they called farmers. Because they're going to have to pay inheritance tax now. Yeah, if you live on the farm, you're not going to pay any tax until you're inheriting over £2 million. So you get £2 million worth of farm tax free. It's only going to affect a small number of farmers, and there's ways around it as well, because you can give the farm to your kids before you die. As long as it's 7 years before you die, they can get it. No inheritance tax to be paid. There's ways around it. So, the idea that every single farmer in the country now is like, oh, I've only got a small farm, and my kids are not going to be able to get it off me. It's not true. It's not true. They're trying to make it into something it's not. There's a horrific picture there on the front of the Times of the carnage in Valencia in Spain, in eastern Spain, as the death toll rises to 158. The soaring cost of sickness claims. It's because we live in the world that Murdoch wanted. The owner of this rag wanted this world, and he wanted it turning out exactly like it has. So he wanted people driving cars that kill your lungs. He wanted people smoking. He wanted people drinking. He wanted people to do things that were damaging to their health. He wanted an unhealthy environment. He wanted people stressed out all the time because of his headlines, making people scared about everything that was going to happen. Foreigners coming over here, and Brexit, and sorry, not Brexit, the EU doing awful things, and oh my God, this warlord's coming. I know I've ever told you about monkeypox. It's going to come and kill us all, and all this hysteria all the freaking time. and it's terrible for our health. It's absolutely terrible for our mental health and our physical health as things happen. And this is the world they wanted, and now they've got it, and now loads of people are ill as a result of living in a sick society. And yeah, now they're like, oh my god, look, loads of people are off work with sickness. Yeah, because this is what you did. This is what you. Well done. You achieved it. Well done. Reeves told she would have to raise a further $9 billion for public services. Just put some money on the fuel bills, on the petrol. Dolly Parton, oh my lord, I can't retire. There you go. And then we've got Oz, Vertigo, Citizen Kane, the flops that fought back. There you go. And also we've got Spain in mourning as death toll from catastrophic floods rises to more than 150. We've got ridiculous Rag the Mail here. Reeves's tax raid to cost charities £1.4 billion a year. Charities. So what they're doing here is they're regarding private schools as charities, because they're charities, you see, for little Nepo babies who want to grow up to become president, prime ministers, or heads of companies, or actors, or singers, or just do any of those dream jobs. You know, the ones that you dreamed of doing when you were a kid. They get to do them. Nepo babies. They make their dreams come true. And basically, because the Daily Mail is run by and staffed by and written by private school gobshites, they're going, oh, it's 1.4 billion a year. This is the schools. This is bullshit about the schools, because they're saying, oh, but they're a charity, really. Don't forget 55 Tufton Street. You know, all those think tanks. Yeah, they're charities. They are charities. They're registered as charities. Unbelievably, as you know, charities for rich people. Spice Girls plan to do an Oasis showbiz exclusive with Posh Spice not looking too happy about that idea. And then Reeves admits budget will hit workers. Oh, will it? Okay. As Labour faces growing backlash against Chancellor's £40 billion tax grab. This is the Express reporting on the government spending more money on us, and they're calling it a cash grab because it makes it sound like, do you see what they're doing here? It makes it sound like that Rachel Reeves is just grabbing the money and putting it into putting it in the pot, in the van. Look, I've got all your money now. I'm gonna bugger off to go and, you know, do the slots at Vegas. And there's a ban on singing songs. There's Emily in London, so that's Thingy Collins' daughter. Lily Collins from Emily in Paris, which is awful. But people like it. I don't know. It's like Trump. It's awful, but people like it. And Kirsty, all stop there. Labour has killed the family farm. More lies from the very, very privileged. And Redmayne dazzles in Day of the Jackal. Redmayne, obviously. I think all three people here on the front cover of the Daily Telegraph all went to private school, so that was nice. Let's see what they think. Market turns on Reeves over tax burden, another lie from the Tory graph. Basically, the percentage of interest effectively on like government bonds or gilt yields or whatever went up a fraction of a percentage, like 0.15%. It didn't go up like 4% like it did when we had the catastrophic mini budget, but there you go. They're still alive. These people are still employed, you know, after saying that was the greatest budget ever of all time. Interest will fall more slowly after budget, economists warn. Backlash over inheritance on family farms and help for the vulnerable. The family farms thing is absolute nonsense. Again, it's something that will have to be paid by like a couple percentage of farmers. Perhaps, maybe, but it's only on stuff that is worth over £2 million. And if you inherit over £2 million, I think we can all agree that some of that money that you earn after that, so you get the $2 million. That is the $2 million is not taxed at all. You get that lump sum in your bank account. Thank you very much. If that's how the way you do it. If you liquidate your assets, whatever. The inheritance tax is only on everything after that, and on farms it's not 40%, it's 20% on farmlands and stuff. So I mean, even that, it's like, okay, well, that's fair enough. So you inherit £3 million and you have you have to pay 200,000 in tax. Okay, that sounds fairly reasonable to me. Don't know about you, but you know, maybe I'm just a fool. Sarah Cox there. It was tough being jobless. Davina helped me bounce back. And then we've got interest rates will fall more slowly after budget, economists warn. Yeah, I mean, yes, but we're recovering from the worst run of a government in British history. You can't imagine like how bad the last government was, and we talk about it a lot on this channel, but austerity, Brexit, COVID response, mini budget, they just stumbled from disaster to disaster to disaster, making people's lives shitter, and that's what they did very, very successfully. Borrowing costs tick up as investors digest Reeves' budget debt demands. So that's borrowing costs for the government. So as gilt yields go up, it means that it costs more for the government to borrow. And you can see there the graph. It's not actually that much more than it was in May of this year. I know you can't see what exactly, but that's May this year. That's June there. And then we can draw an almost straight line to where we are today. So, you know, all in all, it's not that different from when the Tories were in charge. Anyway, right, but don't let them tell you that, because you know, you might learn something. Who, says Christopher Bolt, indeed, the family farms are the ones being supported. They absolutely are, Stephanie Wilson, and it's just lies in the tabloids. I mean, these tabloids are allowed to print lies. GB News is allowed to bring on the Prime Minister and have a debate which is full of supporters of the Prime Minister. When I tried to get on the show, they called me at literally the last minute, just as I was about to leave my house to get on the train to Leeds, where it was, or wasn't Leeds, was it Darlington, where it was being filmed. I was just about to get on the train, and I will leave the house to get on the train, and I got a phone call from one of the producers, the runners or whatever, and they said, we don't want you to come, don't come, you've been disinvited, because they'd looked me up, and they'd gone, oh, well, he's going to give our Prime Minister some shit, so we're not going to let him come. Anyway, so GB News was fined £100,000, which is a lot of money to me. It's a lot of money to you, I guess. It's not a lot of money to GB News and Paul Marshall, you know, the father of the banjo player from Mumford and Sons, or Banjo and Sons as I like to call him. To him, who's a multi-billionaire, it's a little drop in the ocean. He's already losing £70 million a year on GB News, because it's just a way of burning money. It's probably a money laundering operation, actually, come to think of it, because they don't make money. So what do we call a club that doesn't make any money? What do we call a laundrette that doesn't make any money? Call it a money launderer, don't we? Yes, we do. Of course we do. Because that's what they are. I confess, I first heard of Roy Coyne in the Billy Joel song We Didn't Start the Fire, says Colin Baker. I first became aware of him, not from the Billy Joel song, because he says too many things too fast, but from Angels in America, in which he was played by Al Pacino. It was like a mini-series about 25 years ago. Don't know if you saw it. It was about the AIDS epidemic in New York. It was really good. But yeah, Roy Coyne, not a great person. That is excellent news. Gilts go up when the economy is falling. GB Snooze have been fined by Ofcom. It won't stop them lying. Well, exactly. It's a drop in the ocean. It's a drop in the shit-filled rivers. Like, it is cheaper to pay the fine and continue doing what you're doing. It's more profitable to just continue pumping shit into the rivers and pay the fines for pumping shit into the rivers. Yeah, that's the way. It's the way it works. It's the way it works. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. That's the way. Doing my best not to fall in love with codeine on day 9 post OP on my knee replacements. Decision I'm responsible for. Bloody hell, Andrew. Oh, that's tricky. That's a tricky one, mate. But pain is not your friend. How many installments will Google pay their fine to Russia? And so Google's been fined an undectillion. and undectillion. Is it? Is that how you pronounce it? I don't know. It's a 1 with 36 noughts after it. Dollars. Google has been fined by Russia, apparently. Yeah. Anyway, which is more money than there is in the world, and ever has been. Right. I'm going to get going now. So thank you very much for watching. We'll be back at 1 o'clock for the agenda with me and Phil Morehouse. So until then, I'll say thank you very much for watching. I didn't talk about Trump too much, which is probably a good thing, because we're going to probably talk about him tonight on the Friday Night Social, which is on at what time is it? 9:30 tonight. And until then, I'll say thank you so much for watching. Hello, good evening, and goodbye.